you like movies?
I like some movies. Yes, I like movies.
Do you like movies as a concept? Like the concept of movies? Do you like that?
Like watching something?
No, just like movies as a concept.
Like the idea of movies existing.
Like the concept of pictures that move at 24 frames a second and they tell a story.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you think that's cool?
Because
think
I
that's
also
cool.
like movies. Sam, how do you feel
It'd
about
be
it?
weird if you
you
guys
know what?
didn't.
Like, I'm gonna say something kind of controversial. I like movies.
Oh, that's
Alex,
crazy.
how do you feel like on this?
I would say I like movies.
This is good.
Guys,
Yeah.
we need to do something about this. We all like movies. What if we made a podcast
Oh my god.
where we talked about movies?
I have a good name. I actually have a good
yeah?
name for the podcast.
Yeah?
We could call it Pretentious Pigs.
No one
So
understands that
true.
reference.
No one gets that reference.
I agree. That
This is
a
like
great
this is a lore
podcast
drop
name.
now. This is a lore drop.
The rejected name of the podcast.
Yeah, well, fun fact.
I still think it's a good
before
name.
Reeled In, the podcast was going to be called Pretentious Pigs and Guilty Flakes.
It was never
It
going to
was
be called
Well,
never
okay,
going
that
to
was
be
the
that.
title.
No, it was.
No.
You disapproved
Well,
of it.
Avery, do you want to tell us how you came up with this title? Do you just want to tell us how you came up with the title? Because I remember.
You can tell.
No, please go ahead. I think you should say it.
I think it was just ChatGPT, right?
That was ChatGPT? What the fuck?
Sam didn't know.
Sam wasn't added yet, but
I thought Avery, I thought you just like wrote that.
No,
no, I wrote that.
We were
Yeah.
coming up with titles. We didn't have anything.
And you guys went into ChatGPT and said, "Write me a
You
name for a
guys.
You
movie."
guys.
Oh, it was Avery.
No, it was a team group effort.
Oh god.
And then I think was it Alex? Was it you who came up with Reeled In? It was something.
Maybe? I don't remember.
I don't remember. But
I'll take credit for it, though.
Sure.
It's a good name. It's probably the best thing about the podcast is the name. It's a good name.
Wow.
Hey, I like the
And
abduction episode.
the intro.
Yeah,
The
the intro
intro's
is really good.
The logo.
The logo's
Yeah.
pretty good. But no, the podcast is called Reeled In.
Yeah.
Wow.
We should, do an episode like right now. We have
That's
a mic
that's
set up
you
for
know what?
some reason.
Well,
We're just
that's
recording our
true.
conversation, but maybe we should like talk about some movies and like post this.
Well, I like movies.
I like movies
You know
too.
what? That's
yeah.
a good idea. Well, guys, welcome back to Reeled In. I'm Asman.
I'm Sam.
I'm Alex.
I'm Avery.
This is the podcast where three film buffs.
Yes.
What?
Reeled their non-film befriend in to their world of cinema. And she
Okay.
tries to do the same.
Yeah.
It's okay, man.
I'm
this
the
is our
friend in
first time doing the
question.
podcast,
See,
so it makes sense why you wouldn't be able to tell
I
it.
hesitate there
Yeah.
because the two movies we're talking about on this episode are I Like Movies and Jay Kelly. We're going to start off talking about I Like Movies,
Yeah.
which was suggested by
And
Alex,
this was my pick.
and Jay Kelly was...
I'm not
Which was
surprised.
also basically my
Yeah, it
pick.
was basically
Yeah.
Alex's pick. This is the Alex episode.
This is the Alex
let's be
episode.
honest.
But the reason I hesitate is because I Like Movies is about... Or actually, Avery, do you want to kind of give us the rundown of what I Like Movies
I
is
Like
about?
Movies is about Lawrence, who is a film bro, and he likes movies.
Whoa.
And he
Wow.
works at first he has this big dream of getting into NYU, into a big film school, and then he gets a job at a video store,
Sequels.
and then he doesn't get into NYU and he goes to
Well, that's like at the end
Carleton.
of the movie. Okay,
Well, that's
sure.
like the
Yeah.
brief
You're really
overview.
good at summarizing movies, I've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good at just explaining what happens at the end of the movie.
Well,
Here's
that's
the
like
story.
a brief
Here's the
summary. No middle.
No, there's just no middle.
Yeah.
But no, it follows this guy. His name is Lawrence. I don't know his last name. I'm not even
Lawrence Queller.
sure. Lawrence Queller, and he's like this really pretentious film buff.
I have a question before you even get into this.
Okay.
Do you guys find Lawrence to be a likable character?
No.
No, of course
Okay.
not.
He's
of
not
course
meant to
not.
Do you? Okay.
Of course. Do you? Like,
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just wondering.
He's not likable, but I think to an extent he's relatable. We'll get into
So.
We'll get into this. We'll get into
Okay.
this.
But he's not likable, no.
He's not likable at all, and that's why I hesitate with the film buff thing, because he is a film buff in the movie, and he's
Well,
just
he's a film bro. Like, we don't fuck with film. We're not film bros. Except maybe a little bit.
Okay, sure. There's a
But he's
no,
like
no.
full on film bro.
There's a difference
Yeah.
between
You
film
know.
bros
Is
and
there?
film buffs. There is.
Yeah.
There is.
It's all one category to me. I'm gonna be real
really?
with
Do you
you.
really? Do you?
I mean,
okay,
I'm an outsider though.
honest question, like genuine thing, and I know we joke about this. Do you think that we are similar to Lawrence in terms of like
Not you. Okay, you guys. There's levels
Okay.
to it. You guys have similar interests, obviously. You all like movies. There
I
are
like
some
movies.
little.
We have to put like a counter.
You're not like
every
him to me.
Alex, who's editing this, it would be
Yeah,
really cool
a little,
if like
ding or
in
something.
the video you like have a little I like movies counter, and every single time that we say it, it
Yeah.
goes up.
Yeah, this episode's
I'm
gonna.
not
be
gonna do that, but that's a good idea.
Guys, I like movies. Somebody out there, one of our biggest fans, create a video of all the times we say I like movies in this.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But no, continue.
He is like a more extreme version.
I feel like the difference between like a film bro and like a film buff, like Lawrence versus like us, I guess. I don't know. I feel like film bros tend to kind of surround their entire personality with being the most knowledgeable in film and like kind of surrounding their life. And it's like anytime you're having a conversation with them, they're always like, hey, especially when it comes to movies, but just kind of in general, the movies slip in there and it's like, I'm kind of superior to you,
Yes.
You're just like,
Right.
you watch these movies, you're whatever. Whereas I feel like film buffs are more willing to kind of have just like an actual like conversation with film and not, I don't know, have kind of like a superiority complex, I guess.
Sure. That's
I don't know. That's a very like
I see what you mean.
certain way of describing it, but I feel like that's the kind of thing that tends, like when you're having a conversation with a film buff, it doesn't, a film buff,
A film bruh.
a film buff, it doesn't feel like you're like competing with them to like say like, oh, I know more than you. But with a film bro, it's like less they're actually interested in having a conversation about movies, more being like, have you seen this movie? Whoa, you don't know movies, man.
the movie highlights it as kind of like a narcissistic. Type of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
But no, I will say, and I like this movie, and I find Lawrence.
Chandler.
I said Chandler because Chandler Levac is the director of this film,
Oh.
and she also directed recently My Land Kicks, which is also a great Canadian film. But
Any
no,
roommates with Adam Sandler's daughter.
Oh, really? She
Yeah,
directed
she
it?
did.
Oh,
that's,
okay.
pretty cool.
That's a connection relator.
Yeah.
But no, Lawrence, I find this character interesting because, like you said, he is a film bro who has that superiority complex. But I think his character is so interesting because he doesn't spell out everything for you. I guess kind of spoilers, but in the movie, they bring up the fact that Lawrence's dad committed suicide 4 years prior to the events of the film, and that's a big part in his emotions and his mental instability and stuff like that. But I think aside from that, it's very heavily shown to you that Lawrence is probably like he's neurodivergent in some way. He's like on the spectrum or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I feel and he's probably has other mental ailments, whatever they may be.
Well, he suffers from panic attacks. I think we see that at
Right.
one
Yeah.
point.
He has a bunch of
Yeah.
anxiety, panic attacks, and I guess he does have like a narcissistic like attitude.
Yeah.
Like in him. But I find it interesting how being a film bro doesn't mean that he's like that because of all of these other like qualities in him, right? Like it's not just because like he's watching films in like a superior way or something. It's like the narcissistic attitude and like the depression, the mental whatever.
Because you see that in other ways too, like how he treats his friend, where he's like, "You're just kind of a placeholder until I go to university."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Or his mom.
That's one
Yeah.
thing about Lawrence in this, because like Lawrence, like I mean, I don't really find him relatable other than the fact that we both like movies.
That's
I
probably
mean, hey,
yeah.
I get anxiety too. That's another thing. But like, I feel like when you kind of make him the protagonist, you do kind of have sympathy for him and kind of a better understanding because you know kind of what he's dealing with. But at the same time, it really just reveals the fact that like a lot of these like narcissistic qualities that you see in like a lot of film bros always kind of come from a certain insecurity within them. Like that's just how it is. A lot of people who feel like they're superior to other people are actually dealing with a lot of insecurity inside, and that's why they feel the need to kind of
which doesn't
do
justify their behavior.
No,
but,
but it's you get a better understanding and you kind of can sympathize with that of being like, okay, like I understand why you're acting this way. It doesn't mean that, I like it, but like, I understand you a bit more.
I don't relate to Lawrence at all, again, aside from, the I like movies aspect of it, but
I like movies.
But something I find impressive about this movie is the fact that it managed to make me feel like, like empathetic for Lawrence, who is such a shitty character in this movie. And I guess it kind of like plays to an extreme that whole idea of like, when you're younger, when you're like a teenager, you do stupid things, you make dumb decisions. And I think this movie is like an extreme example of that. Like this guy who's completely, fucked up his life. He's pushing all of his friends away, who he has like one
He
of
has
maybe.
one
Yeah,
friend.
he has one friend and he's pushing him away. He, got fired from a job he really wanted and he just sabotaging himself and stuff like that. It's a really extreme example of that, young dumbness, that dumb attitude you have when you're younger. And I guess I think most people can like sympathize with that aspect of it.
I think
Yeah.
you can relate to that. Like,
Yeah,
even if
yeah.
it's not like
Relatable.
as bad as him.
Yeah.
But like to your point, Sam, that like it's a movie that's about like an obnoxious film bro, but it gets into like why people are like that.
Yeah.
It's not just that they're pretentious about movies.
Right.
It's that's a symptom of just like a narcissistic personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I think even if we can say we're not like that exactly, I think we've all had experiences of like being assholes to people and
Yeah.
like especially as kids, like when you say something kind of mean to your mom and then you think back later and you're like, that was fucked up, like that's kind of
Yeah.
an asshole to my mom, you
Right.
know. I think the way he acts in the movie is extreme, but
Yeah.
there is something relatable about
Yeah.
watching a kid make mistakes and treat people terribly, knowing that we've all been there and we've all done that.
Yeah.
And it makes you kind of reflect back on how you were as a kid.
Mhm.
And I was like an obnoxious film bro, you know?
Right.
Like, I think we all can relate to that a little bit. Maybe not.
I
but-
can't.
I think
I mean, we could be obnoxious about our opinions.
I think when you
sometimes.
get into
Yes.
films, or at least in my experience, when I started getting into films, you hit a stage where you get into like more like artsy, pretentious films, and in that phase, at least I was quite insufferable in that. Oh my god, you're watching fucking Tom Cruise movies. What's wrong with you?
You love
That-
Tom
No,
Cruise.
right, exactly, and like, I'm not like that anymore. But at that point, you're
Yeah.
like, like you're really pretentious and kind of obnoxious about it.
And as
And
a
I think-
teenager, it's like, yeah, you're gonna start with like Stanley Kubrick and all these
Right.
classics, and you're gonna think you know better than everyone because everyone you know in high school, like they haven't seen those movies.
Right.
So from that point of view, it's like, yeah, I know more than you. I'm awesome. I've seen Stanley Kubrick movies.
It's like, yeah, I feel like in one way or another, we've always kind of, like, I feel like everybody, even if it's not movies necessarily, we've all had a point in our life where, like, we're like, you had your thing, It's like,
Mhm.
oh, in your friend group, like, you had this one thing that, like, maybe you are more well-versed in than all of your friends. And it's
Okay.
like, you get to kind of, like, be like, oh, like, not, like, brag about it, but just be like, whoa, this is, like, my thing. And it kind of makes you feel special and, like,
yeah.
superior,
you know what,
quote unquote,
That's a good point.
but it's
yeah.
like in reality it's kind of like an abstraction of like the kind of need to feel like you have this like thing
yeah.
that's special to you.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's kind of like, oh, you're like, oh yeah, like I've seen all the Stanley Kubrick movies, you don't know who that is, I'm so cool and I
Yeah.
have my own thing.
And that's
And-
part of growing up. You have to
Exactly,
find
yeah.
what your thing is and your identity. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get too
Yeah.
attached to the idea of like, this is my identity. And you become kind
Exactly.
of, you cling to
And
that,
that's why whenever like a lot of film bros like me and like, I don't know, they have the same like favorite movie. They're like, you don't understand this movie like I do,
Right.
man. I watched this 20 billion times. And then the other guys, well, I've seen it 30 billion times. I know better
No,
than
I'm
you.
gonna be so. And another part of growing up is that even if you want to make that your identity and stuff like that, I think you need to come to terms with the fact that there's a healthy way of going about this. There's a
Yeah.
healthy way
Yeah.
of saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I love movies, and like I do, I know this. I've seen a bunch of Stanley Kubrick movies. I've analyzed them, stuff like that. There's a healthy way of doing that, and like a
Yeah.
really friendly way of doing that. And like I'll fully admit, in my teenage years, in my friend groups, when I really got into movies and stuff, and I was watching, all these, I don't know, like these David Lynch movies, and one of my friends would be like, "Oh, hey, I watched like fucking Razorhead or something like that." I'd be like, "Fuck, what the fuck do you know about Razorhead?" That type of thing. And like,
Sorry.
yeah, like
Crazy.
it used to be like a thing, and it's something that I guess you hold. I don't know, how do I like? I'm psychoanalyzing myself, I guess, but like I guess you hold pride in it or something.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a movie that makes you do that. If you're a film buff watching it,
Right.
Because you do see a part of yourself in that.
Right. I think that's
You
a
can't
relatable
help
thing.
it.
I think it's kind of like the way that like we, especially as teenagers, when we're kind of molding our own identity, all of these like specifically art or like specific interests are kind of how we see our whole identity. So it's almost like when you see a friend who like maybe you know, watches a movie that you really liked and maybe has their own opinions on it, you're like, wait, it feels like you're like, you know, this is like me. Like, it feels like you're looking at a part of me. What do you know about that? Like, this is my thing.
Sure.
This is what I love. Or like, especially if somebody criticizes something that you really enjoy and has their own like different opinion, you're like, I feel like you're insulting me because this is what I've like kind of centered my identity around. Like, I love these movies, and you not liking them kind of feels like you don't like me, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really like kind of like teenage like mindset, because I don't know, when we're kind of like lost, you know, we don't really know where we're going in life yet, and like, you know, we're still kind of figuring ourselves out. That's kind of the one like guiding thing of like, you know, when people introduce themselves, they're like, oh, hey, what's your name? What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite song? Who's your favorite artist? You know, that's like the kind of talking points. It's your interests. And so that's kind of what you center your personality and like your identity around.
That's one of the reasons why the title is so brilliant. Just, I like movies. Like, that's his identity. Like, whenever he's introducing himself, like at the end, even when he's introducing himself to like the people at his university, he says, I like movies, right?
Because of the poster,
Yeah. And like, I mean, one of my favorite bits is like when his boss, Alana, is driving him home and she's like, it's a Saturday night. Like, shouldn't someone your age like be going out to parties? And he's like, I just want to stay home and watch the Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah,
you know, like it's his whole identity. He always says, just I like movies.
The socially inept person, who just his life revolves around movies and stuff like that. And I guess at a certain point, it goes beyond like you liking movies. It goes to the point of like, I like movies all this time, so this is me, and I have to like, play the part. I have to stay this way. And I guess that's why it's harder for like, people like Lawrence to kind of break out of their shell and be like more like to go to a party rather than go home and watch a movie, because that is their identity and they have to like play that role. That type of thing. You bring up Alana, and I think Alana is an extremely important and really well-written character
such a
in
great
this
character.
movie. So Alana is the manager and the boss of Sequels, the video store that Lawrence works at. And she kind of hires him, I guess, on a whim because somebody leaves, and there's like this really awkward, funny interview they have, and then she hires Lawrence. And as they're working together, Lawrence, he's such an insufferable fucking guy. But like, they're working, and Lawrence is like, "Oh my god, what if we do this? Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell Shrek DVDs. What the fuck is wrong with you? I want to talk about
his Shrek banner."
Right, he has a Shrek banner.
That.
Yeah, I want to talk about The Shining or something.
I like when like the female coworker, like she goes like "Donkey," and then the male coworker goes, "Oh, that was really good. That was really good."
I love the coworkers. The coworkers are great.
They're so good.
But yeah, he's being really insufferable. He's like, oh, we should have like a staff picks wall. We should like do this and that. He's coming up with all of these new ideas, and Alana's just like,
that is such a good scene. The montage of like the staff picks.
Right. Yeah.
That's so good. My favorite one, and this is a Canadian movie. I don't know if we mentioned that, but I love that.
Chandler Levac is a Canadian film director.
Right. Yeah. And one of the movies in that montage is The Saddest Music in the World, which is a Guy Maddin film, and I love Guy Maddin, and I love that the little note he wrote was, I cried when Isabella Rossellini had beer legs. Absolutely powerful cinema.
Okay.
That was so good.
That goes by fast. Like, that's a really like quick shot. Yeah.
But like, because I like paused and pointed at the screen when I saw that, because I love that movie.
No, I was like spotting like every single movie I knew.
Every single reference. There's so much.
There's so much. They talk about the crow in that montage a lot.
Nah.
Oh my god! Wait, Punch Drunk Love is like a big part of this movie.
It's sad that I knew that movie.
And you've seen Punch Drunk Love.
There was another movie. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No. But I knew it's directed by PTA because you guys won't shut up about it.
And they mentioned it too.
Yeah. There was another Stanley Kubrick. I know that director now because of you guys.
And
there were other
ones. Your favorite movie is Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut was mentioned, and I was like...
You had seen The Shining before, like, the podcast.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, like, have named the director. But yeah, there were some film references that I knew. There was an American Psycho 2 box in the background.
Was there?
There was. Wow. I saw that one. I was very happy. But yeah.
But no, Punch Drunk Love is a big part of this movie, because they go to... This is around the release of Punch Drunk Love. Yep. And it's so funny. I was watching the movie... and they come out of the movie, and Lawrence is like, "Oh my god, that was like the best like love story put to like cinema and stuff like that." And I was watching the movie, and then I texted Alex like during this, and I was like, "You know what? If I was alive during that time, I would be exactly like this if I watched Punch Drunk Love too." So I fully understand. But no, back to Alana. They had the staff.
I was alive that time. Never.
Well, okay.
I was just gonna say before you get to Alana, I realized that. What's the name of the director again?
Chandler
Levac. Like, we had seen her newest movie, Mile and Kicks.
Second newest, technically Roommates came out.
Oh, okay.
I've seen her latest movie.
But that movie, like, I feel like, especially pairing this with, like, I like movies, it really is for, like, you know, the people who want to, like, catch all the references and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's
is.
really, like, targeting the type of people that, like, I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily, you know, to the extent of, like, you know, my entire personality is movies, and I, like, to the extent that Lawrence is, like, you know, very, like, film surrounding his entire, like, identity around film. But it's like, yeah, like, sometimes you do find yourself, like, you know, watching the movie being like, whoa, I know that one.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody knows that. Or, like,
it's funny that they do that to appease the people that do make movies their personality, so that they could, like, watch it and, like, relate to Lawrence and go, oh, that's fucked up, actually.
And
yeah, exactly. That's the
Chandler
thing.
Levac has a knack for this type of thing, I guess, because in Mile and Kicks, like, all the indie music, like, you got the Neutral Milk Hotel, you have, you know, like the Who, Ween, you know, all of these, like, different bands that, like, you know,
which does a good job of making you reflect on, like, your worst tendencies that you pretend don't exist, that you think are just
and then you're watching the movie and you're like, wait, Joni Mitchell.
Yeah,
oh my
like,
God.
literally, like, when me and Asman, we saw it, we were, like, pointing at the screen, like, every 5 seconds. And she was like, oh, Montreal is the new Seattle of indie music. I'm like, you know who's actually in Seattle?
Right, yeah.
Death Cab for Cutie. Anyways, it's like that type of thing. It's like, you know, you're like, oh, like, I know all these references. I'm like, so cool. But it's like, that's kind of who she's targeting. It's like, she's kind of talking about you. And you kind of catch yourself,
She wants you to reflect on
exactly,
that.
yeah.
That's great. It works so well.
It's really good. Anyways, I just wanted to say that.
Alana,
Let's get back to that.
So Alana, the staff picks all that. You know, Lawrence is being really insufferable about all of this, but then they have, like, a first real, like, heart-to-heart where Alana reveals that, you know, Lawrence says, like, why aren't you working, like, a real job? You know, why don't you have, like, a real career and stuff? And Alana's like, what do you mean? I have a career. Like, I'm a manager at sequels and stuff like that. But he's like, yeah, I know, but, like, did you go to university or anything? And she's like, oh, yeah, I went to Ryerson. And Lawrence is like,
no, she went to Guelph.
Oh, she went to Guelph, right.
It's
Guelph that Lawrence doesn't like.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Lawrence looks down on Guelph. Lawrence also looks down on every Canadian university. He only likes NYU. But no, Alana's like, oh yeah, I went to Guelph and, you know, I studied, I forget what she studied, like...
theater or something?
Theater,
like
maybe
that.
theater.
Yeah,
it was theater, I think it was theater. And then she said, oh yeah, I was there for a while, and then during my first year, my roommate, you know, committed suicide. And Lawrence is, like, really touched by this. And the movie doesn't reveal it at that moment, but he's touched by that story because Lawrence's dad, like I said, committed suicide 4 years prior. And so he's like, wow, someone else has been through what I have been through, that type of thing. But then later in the movie, after some, you know, stuff happens, it's revealed that Alana was lying about this and that none of that ever happened. And Lawrence is, like, kind of taken aback, but he forgives her because Lawrence is low-key, like, I guess, not even in love. Like, he's just, like, infatuated by her. He finds her attractive or something. Mm-hmm. It's, like, the only person he talks to, I guess. Maybe that's part of it. Something like that.
He's a loser that has no friends.
Right. Like, he goes
he's
home.
He's a worthless piece of shit.
He goes home and he masturbates to Spartacus by Stanley Kubrick.
In the living room.
In the living room, and his mom walks in. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But then they have, like, a real heart-to-heart where Alana's being fully honest, and, you know, this is big. Lawrence says, hey, I like movies, right? This is the second name drop in the movie. And Alana's like, you know what? I hate movies, actually. And Lawrence is like, why do you hate movies? And then Alana, such a great actress. I don't know her name.
I don't know either.
She's such really a good actress. And she gives this big, you know, monologue on why she hates movies, and it's because she tried getting into acting a couple years ago. She went to LA to get her start, and, you know, she was getting random extra roles and stuff, but then she booked, like, a big movie. And in the making of this big movie, a producer, you know, called her over, and, you know, like the old Hollywood story, like the producer kind of, like, sexually assaulted her type of thing, and because of that she's just moved away from movies completely. She didn't get any roles, and she's just a complete mess now, right? Like, it's just really, like, fucked up story. And I only bring this up to say that that monologue is done so well and Alana
Yeah.
delivers it so well. Like that's some of the best acting I've seen in a long time.
really good.
It's so good.
So, because you can tell that she's never really told many people that, and she's trying to be really casual about it. You could just hear it like in her voice. It's like she's just telling the story of like, oh, she went to the store the other day.
Right.
Like she's being really casual about it, and then you can see it kind of like break as she's getting like further along in the story.
Right.
It's so good, man.
It's
She
insane.
does such a good job with that.
And Lawrence's response to that story is, "Why would you tell me that?" Which is just, it's fucking crazy.
Crazy thing to say.
But that's such an interesting
Yeah.
story, and the way Alana's character, her development, kind of mixes in with Lawrence's development towards the end, which we'll get to, is just I love that. Like Alana is a big character in the movie. I think just as big as Lawrence in my eyes.
And like I feel like the fact that this is like a Canadian film also is very like, I guess like resonates with the audience that it's trying to get, because like Lawrence, he has like he wants to go to NYU, he's like fuck Canada. And I mean like you do actually hear from like basically any Canadian like, filmmaker, actors, musicians. They're like, hey, how do you get big in Canada? You know what they answer?
Leave.
They say leave.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many. It's like you go to like all of like Canadian cinema. There is almost always this idea like they just want to leave Canada. That's the
It's
entire
so
thing.
Lawrence
That's
says at
like,
one point, he says, "I don't want to be a Canadian filmmaker."
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
You want to leave,
Right.
and it's like
But
that.
then, at the same time, there's so many instances like his mom brings up, what about the David Cronenberg guy? Like
Yeah.
the big Canadian filmmakers. And it's so interesting. You mentioned like Canadian musicians. One of the biggest like Canadian artists of all time, Neil Young.
Rush.
Neil Young.
Avril Lavigne.
I bring up Neil Young because Neil Young, like really early on in his life, illegally drove past the U.S. border because he was like, "Fuck Canada, man, I'm not doing that shit."
Really?
But then he didn't get citizenship for like 20 years, so he was just legally Canadian his entire life, basically. But he was a really anti-Canadian guy, and he is like a Canadian artist. He makes music for Canada and stuff like that. But there's this like. You're right. There is this thread of like, because like Canada's like right next to America, and America's like where it's at, right? Like L.A., you got Vegas, stuff like that. Like that's where you have to be if you want to make it. And like all of these artists that these legendary Canadian artists, like even like Joni Mitchell, she's like I went to fucking Carnegie Hall. That's where it's at. Like in New York. They're just moving away from Canada, and I guess this movie embodies that mindset too.
And I mean,
Really
I think it's also because like. Well, one, the hot spots, quote unquote, of Canada are pretty like sparse. Like, you could say
Toronto and
like
Vancouver.
Toronto,
Yeah.
Vancouver, maybe Montreal, but like that's really it.
Yeah.
And it's also like it's such a huge country too.
Yeah.
It is.
And so it's like when the US is literally right down there, we're like, there are basically like maybe less so for film, but I mean like for music and stuff like that. You could go anywhere and you could find like a good like, area.
Well, Hollywood, like that's like.
Well, yeah, of course.
the
But like
movies,
just in general, most big cities in like, New York is literally right down there. You could just drive down to New York and you'll probably have like,
Hell yeah.
it's like I feel like I don't know. It's just an interesting idea. The fact that it continues.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Canadian cinema. Like there was a Canadian film theorist named Robert Fothergill who said that Canada is like the younger brother of the United States, and Canada has like a victim complex because of that, where it's Canada. There's nothing intrinsically about being Canadian that gives people this impression, but it's the proximity to the U.S. that makes people in Canada think of themselves as being in their shadow and being like inherently inferior, right? Where it's not because there's something bad about being a Canadian filmmaker as if there's something bad about being Canadian, but it's being Canadian in a way is like saying that you're lesser because you're comparing yourselves to the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
So the idea of being a Canadian filmmaker is saying, I will never be as good as these Hollywood filmmakers. I am relegating myself to the margins.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the desire of I want to go to where the film industry is. I want to leave Canada and go to Hollywood. And I think now, especially with like this director and also like, Matt Johnson, I think, was talking about this recently at the Canadian Screen Awards of like, I want to keep making movies in Canada. And now you have Blue Heron and all the, like, I feel like there's a resurgence of Canadian film.
It's all
He did
Matt Johnson.
Rivalry also.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of interest in
Yeah.
Canadian film now.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think it's I don't think we're fully there, and we're not going to be there for a long time, but I think
Yeah.
we're starting to see Canada as not necessarily being in the margins of the US,
Yeah.
but as its own unique thing,
Well,
and we have to keep building that up, you know?
A lot of things are filmed in Canada too. Like I feel like
Yeah, but
there's
it's
more
mostly
filmed.
US productions
Yeah,
that are just
right.
filmed in
Yes, but they
Canada.
like yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
We need more like Canadian art.
There's
Yeah.
so
You
many
know.
Canadian creatives that are like legendary in like a more underground way. Like you said, Matt Johnson, he's like
Yeah.
huge right now. He's coming out with Tony, which is like a big budget, like production film. We
Which
have
is
Nick-
crazy because Nirvana the band, the show was like this incredibly niche thing that
Right.
only some people in Canada knew about.
Right.
And now like everyone in the US is trying to find VPNs to watch the Canadian Screen
Yeah,
Awards.
exactly.
Like, that's crazy.
Like I literally saw this guy who like he's from the US and like he took a trip to Toronto and was just like taking photos. He took a photo in front of the Rivoli, took a photo in front of the CN Tower,
Right, like,
or like
that's
the spot
insane.
where Matt like dies,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like stuff like that, and it's just like
it's so
The
crazy.
CBC
Yeah.
building.
Another big example of this would be Nathan Fielder, another Canadian
Mhm.
like filmmaker whose work, I mean, with Comedy Central, Nathan For You, and all these like that's mainstream. Like it is kind of mainstream.
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah,
know who
exactly.
Nathan Fielder is, and he's done The Rehearsal. He's done The Curse with Emma Stone, Benny Safdie. Like they're branching out to Hollywood, and it's really interesting to
Yeah.
see that. Like it's kind
Yeah.
of crazy.
I have a question for you, Alex. The opening of this movie, did it give Nirvana
Yeah.
the band, the show, the movie vibes? Because it did for me.
I mean, it looked like it was shot on like the same camera or something similar to that.
Oh my god,
I
the
thought it
beginning
was
of the
set in
movie is
2002.
exactly like The Dirties by Matt Johnson.
Yeah.
you
I
might
can
have
see
to
that.
remind me because it's been a
It's
while
like a
since I've seen it.
montage.
It's the Rejects Night film that he makes and he shows
Oh
it in his class.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
"Wah."
Yeah, look, I was like, oh my god!
It's just like The Dirties.
Yeah.
But-
I love that, like, because that's what opens the film, and you almost forget about it by the end when he gets rejected from NYU. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense if that's the kind of shit he's making.
Yeah, it does.
Because
make
it's
sense.
not good,
No.
but it's fun.
But yeah, so yeah, he does get rejected from NYU,
Mhm.
and he ends up going to Carleton.
You wanna talk about-
Was it true that it was filmed in U Ottawa
Yep.
though?
Yeah.
Okay, this
you
is
can
how
see, like, you Ottawa.
this is
Yeah.
how I actually knew of this movie because someone told me that they did like he went to Carleton but was shot in U Ottawa and I'm like, oh, that's fucked.
Yeah.
But
It's really
But you didn't know
Yeah.
it was this movie until you saw
I didn't
it.
know it was this movie
How
until
come they didn't shoot it at Carleton? I really wonder what the
I
reason
think
was.
they had like an issue with like I don't know, filming or something.
Like a
I'm not
costume
sure
thing.
exactly
like a
but,
permit
like,
because it's
reason.
like public space, isn't it? So like
But also, like, Carleton has, like, its own, like, campus area.
Mhm.
And Ottawa, their buildings are kind of interspersed downtown.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You could be like 15 minutes away from where Ottawa is, and you'd still find Ottawa.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. And so, and there's shots, like, as he's getting to quote-unquote Carleton, where it's just showing him downtown.
Mhm.
Because you see, like, the Parliament building
I
and
thought there
stuff.
was one shot of one of the buildings over there. There was one shot that I was like, oh, I think that's actually like Israeli theater or something like that.
No.
I don't think that's
so.
true.
Are you
No.
'Cause it looked
sure?
like it was downtown.
It was-
I know there
like
was like the
Parliament.
Parliament, there was the other thing, and then there was one where I was like, okay, I feel
I
like
think it was
that's
just downtown.
And like
Was
when
it?
he's
Yeah,
when
I
he's
think
in
so.
the residence, like in his dorm,
It
you look
does
out
not.
and it's literally just downtown.
Yeah.
Like it's
Listen,
not.
So
You-
I think it was just easier, like, maybe you didn't need to get permission because you're just shooting downtown
That's
as opposed
fair,
to, like,
yeah.
coming onto the Carleton campus.
Yeah.
Maybe there was, like, a
Or
way
maybe
of
they
doing
just
that.
didn't want his dorm to look like
They
a
were like, your
prison cell."
movie's talking shit
Yeah.
about us, so we don't let you.
That's the
we
thing,
don't
is
wanna
Ottawa
let
does
you.
look nicer on the outside.
It
No,
does-
not true. Why do
that
people
is
say
some
that?
of the
That's true.
buildings.
No,
it's
it's not
true.
true.
I think
I
it's
think
Have you
The
Ottawa
Carleton campus is-
literally has this like little like I don't know. It could easily be a beautiful like green space in the middle of campus, right by like the library, right by the main buildings.
Yeah.
It could be a beautiful. They fucking put like asphalt all the way down, and it's just
Right.
an empty space.
Right.
It's like this empty courtart, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing
it's
here?
insane.
Put some trees, please.
You know, I'll tell you what. Right now, fun fact, guys, we're recording this at Carleton University,
Whoa.
and right out the window, I can see the quad. And if you want like a campus like look,
You can
like,
see a wall.
A brick
Well,
wall.
from my point of view, I can see the quad.
You
like
can
the
see
trees
like
and
one
stuff like that.
tree.
My point is that if you want like a campus look, like to show a university, that type of thing, like think of like Cambridge or like Harvard or something, shoot it at the quad. That's a university
Yeah,
look.
but in the context of this movie, you didn't need to see like a quad. You didn't need to see the campus.
No.
I
You
guess
just
not.
need to
just
see
needed
the
to see-
res.
Yeah, you needed the establishing shot of the building he was in.
How
Yeah.
come they
And-
didn't just use U Ottawa's name?
Well, that's true. I just think that, like, if you're just gonna get a shot of one building, I think the architecture of U Ottawa, because it's downtown, it has that kind of vibe
Yeah.
to it. Carleton buildings
yeah.
don't look that impressive on the outside. You know,
Sure,
they're just kind
you know
of
what?
boxes.
Fair.
Maybe, sure.
But I feel
get
like
that, I get
campus
that.
overall is a lot
Overall,
nicer.
yeah, because they don't even have a campus. It's just like
Yeah,
random
they
It's
just
just
like
buildings.
intertwined.
But it is
Yeah.
interesting that one of you brought up the point of like, oh, they were shit talking the university. They would never let them film because Lawrence at one point does say Carleton doesn't even have a real film studies program. And I want to know, like, for Sam and Alex as film
Yeah, how
students,
did you guys
They
feel?
student in Carleton Film
It was
Studies.
how do
really
you guys
funny.
feel about that?
I mean, it's true in the sense that it's film studies. It's like
Yeah.
he applied for film production at NYU. That's different from what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, if he went to Carleton with the expectation that he'd be learning to make movies, that's not true.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know?
big question. Do they give you guys access to 16mm film?
I don't.
What do you mean? To like
Because in the movie, it's
That's a
a big
deal.
Lawrence is like, they're not gonna let me shoot on 16mm film.
I don't.
My life is over.
I think they might have a camera in AVRC,
For
possibly.
like only
Yeah, I'm not
masters.
Is it
Sure.
there? Like, I assume, is it like there? Like,
I don't know if they have a 16mm. They might. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. But they do have equipment you can rent.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like, we do have film production classes, but
Yeah,
those were
no.
recent. Like in 2002, they wouldn't have had that.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah.
would have just been
Oh
film.
yeah, I assume in
studies.
It's also in it's in
Yeah.
2002. That's
Yeah,
a
I don't know the
important
exact
thing
year they
to do.
introduced it, but it was recent that
Okay.
they did the film production
Yeah,
class.
so
Oh, wow.
he's very much into NYU. He's like, oh, you know, Todd Solondz, the director of Happiness, and the other movie did.
Yeah.
Is really gonna, he's gonna
Yeah.
teach me stuff like that.
I think he enjoyed his time at Carleton. Oh.
I
Well,
think
okay,
he-
let's get to
no.
that. So in the ending, he's at Carleton. He's in his dorm room, and right before the ending, he shaves his hair and stuff like that. It's kind of signifying a new beginning, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. He's, Also, we didn't actually mention his best friend too much, but he does have
Oh.
like one good friend. His name's Matt, I think.
Yeah.
And he treats him like complete
Shit.
garbage.
Yeah.
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 And then Matt leaves him. And good for Matt.
No, yeah,
Good for
good
Matt. He knows
for
his
Matt.
worth.
Good for Matt.
And he sticks up for himself.
Matt leaves him to, work on this school project they're doing with this girl. Her name's
Lauren P.
Lauren. The crazy name.
I love that. That is so real. Like, have you ever had that, like, in elementary school where it's someone's first name and then last name
Yeah.
initial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Back in elementary school, I used to be Sam C because there was another,
Sam
or
C.
Samantha C because there was Samantha P.
Yeah. That's so
And a
real.
lot
that
of
they
people-
they always call her Lauren B.
Yep. I remember the amount of times that people would say something about Samantha, and I'd be like, yeah, and they'd be like, no, I'm talking about the other Samantha P. I'd be like, okay.
Aw.
Oh.
That's
Sam
messed
C.
up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he gets Lauren P, stuff like that, and then Lawrence, he cuts his hair, he's ready to go to Carleton, and then he's like, I'm gonna stop at Subway for a second. So he goes to Subway.
Well,
he
it's
gets
not
his-
so. It doesn't say Subway, but it's basically
It's
Subway.
basically Subway.
They're literally eating a sub.
Right. He gets like a foot long turkey thing, I think.
Yeah.
And then in the booth, like right in front of him, Alana sits down, and then they have this final conversation where
Yeah.
Alana reveals that. Oh, by the way, yeah, he does get fired from sequels
Yep.
because of like a
He
big.
he
sleeps
slept there
over.
overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that,
it's fine.
but he gets fired from sequels. The details don't matter too much. And Alana and him have like a weird falling out, but then they have a final like heart to heart, and Lawrence reveals that he's going to Carleton University, and it's worth mentioning that throughout the entire movie, Alana, his mom, everybody makes a point of telling Lawrence, like, hey, life doesn't always work out that way. You don't always get what you want.
Yeah.
If you want to go to NYU, you might not get into NYU because of so-and-so, and you need to be prepared for that. And even when Lawrence gets his job, when he's getting his paycheck, Lawrence is like, what the fuck? That's not that much money. What do you mean? And his coworker's like,
Yeah.
have you never had a job before? Like, you don't get paid that much, That's not how it works. And so Lawrence is, like, again, he's a teenager. He's a kid. He's learning how real life works, how the adult life works. And at the end, he finally learns, like, life isn't all peaches and creams or, whatever. And then
What?
I
Alana,
think that's the expression.
that's how they say, this is what they say.
Why
Alana,
is it all peaches and cream?
this is true. But Alana and Lawrence have a final conversation, and
It's a conversation that I feel like is this podcast to a degree.
sure, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you
talk about their
remember what
favorite
Alana
movies.
said her favorite movie was?
The Julia Roberts movie.
True.
I don't know which
Steel
one.
Magnolias.
Steel Magnolias.
Yeah, Lawrence finally asked her, like, hey, what's your favorite movie? And she
Well, he's been
said-
asking her the whole
And-
time.
Oh,
She
yeah,
just
yeah,
finally
she's
reveals it.
right.
Yeah. And he doesn't completely you know?
No, because he hasn't
shit
seen
on
it.
her,
He hasn't
yeah.
seen it, so he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you tell me about."
So
cinema
it's
movies."
literally this podcast,
Whoa.
guys.
And that is actually a good moment of
Whoa.
maturity because that is still like no, I haven't seen it, but it's like a chick flick type thing, right? And he doesn't like make fun of her and belittle her for her
Yeah.
opinion. He gets a poster to put on his dorm room.
Although he's
You know?
low-key like misogynistic too, like the entire
Well,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of.
That's
But that's
another
like
thing.
a moment of growth. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's your favorite movie, and I respect that. You know,
Yeah, because I mean, like, it almost does feel like the type of thing where it's like, yeah, to tell somebody your favorite movie is kind of to, like, I don't know, show a part of yourself to somebody, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because it's like, especially when it's like, I don't know, when you're talking to somebody who, like, movies have meant something to them, like, you know, you are kind of revealing a part of yourself, and, like, you know, when you're accepting any type of, like, comment that they might make on it, like, maybe they'll be like, oh, you like that movie? And maybe that's, like, a movie that, like, means a lot to you, and you're like, oh, you don't like
Right.
that movie? You know, it's like you're revealing a part of
I
yourself.
know
So
people
it's like
say-
a big
I know it's easy
thing.
to say like, oh, it's just like a movie and stuff like that, but I think like for me at least, if you watch like, you know, like my top 4 on like Letterboxd, you could probably like, if you don't know me at all, you could probably get a good sense of who I am as a person and stuff like that, because I think like for someone who's like really heavily into movies, their favorite movies reflect a lot about them as like people, their sense of humor, how they feel about things, you know, how they see art, the world, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think whether you acknowledge it or not, I think this works for everyone. Like
Exactly.
you know.
Like, I feel like every single person has at least one movie that, like, has resonated with them so deeply that, like, no matter what you kind of say about it, they're still always going to be like, that's forever going to be my favorite movie just because it means so much to me.
Good burger.
I love Good Burger.
which is funny because he says his favorite movie is Eyes Wide Shut, and that
Yeah.
feels like Eyes Wide Shut's a great movie. And if someone says that's their favorite movie, I get it, but it doesn't. That doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like that's a movie that really speaks to him.
Yeah.
He's a 17-year-old kid. Like,
Well, that's what I
You
mean.
know,
Like,
17-year-old
They
kid
go
who
to
at that
sex
point had
cults.
never even like masturbated like once in his entire life. So really, what is he getting out of Eyes Wide Shut? I'm really curious. You've never spoken to a
You
girl.
like that movie?
I
You
like
tell
that
us.
movie, but I'm not someone who has never masturbated in his life. I just curious, if you've never spoken to a woman, you've never done anything. What are you really getting out of Eyes Wide Shut? It's just something to think about, right?
man, yeah.
so true,
Yeah,
man.
no, that's good. Yeah.
No, it is interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah, but no, like, it's true. Like, it does really feel like the kind of, like, you know, like I feel like it's kind of the type of thing where, like, when people ask somebody, like, hey, what's your favorite movie? And they take it as, like, what is, you think, like, a perfectly, like, crafted movie, you know?
Yeah,
or, like, what do you
yeah.
think is the best movie? Rather than what's your favorite movie? I feel like those are two very different questions.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like sometimes, like, when that's your entire personality, like, you know, you're the movie guy. You want to say the answer that you feel is the most correct rather
Yeah.
than what you truly believe in. Like, you know, I mean, some people there's probably people out there who, like, genuinely say that Eyes Wide Shut is their favorite movie, which, like I can believe that.
Valid.
But it's like, in that kind of moment, it does
Who's it?
feel like he's just kind of saying it because it's like, you know, he thinks like, oh, the Stanley Kubrick movie is so niche and, like, so, you know, it's so good, you know, it's
Yeah,
perfectly
and
crafted
also, that
type
is
thing.
kind of like not a rare pick, but like a lesser known pick for like a favorite Stanley Kubrick film, isn't
Well,
it?
also at the time, that movie would have just come out like 3 years
right,
ago.
right.
Mm,
That's
that's
also
true.
Which is
true.
interesting.
But
Yeah, and that's so
anyways.
interesting because if you've never seen Eyes Wide Shut, you get nothing out of that conversation or that scene. Like, if you know
Yeah.
nothing about Eyes Wide Shut, so that's an interesting.
I'm so glad you guys prepared me for this movie by
Yeah,
making me
true,
watch
yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Lawrence, he grows, he goes, to his dorm room. Oh, and a big lesson that Alana tells him is like, hey, next time you have a conversation with people, ask them about themselves, ask them questions, and
Yeah.
listen to what they're saying. And that's what
Like
he
a
does. He
normal
does it
human
in like a
being.
really, really beginner, strange way, but
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
learning. And
yeah,
it's a
well,
really
I mean,
sweet
like,
moment.
that's the whole thing, like, kind of what we're saying about, like, you know, talking about our favorite movies and stuff. It feels like, especially when, you know, you associate something with your whole identity, whenever you're talking about it with anybody else, you kind of see it as like they're challenging you. It's like,
Mm.
oh, my favorite movie needs to be an objectively better movie than your favorite movie, because I'm the movie guy and that's what I associate myself with. But then like Alana, like at the end, is kind of saying like, you know, there's more to these like conversations and stuff. You can talk to somebody about your favorite movies and learn a lot from them through their favorite movies, rather than it being like a competition of whose favorite movie is a better movie, you know? And so it kind of just, he grows beyond this kind of idea as like, he needs to kind of be quote unquote superior to the people around him, and instead kind of like, you know,
Just be a normal human being.
yeah.
Wow.
But just
gotta
like,
learn
yeah.
sometimes.
How
you
did you,
know?
but he's what, 18 at this point? Like I have no sympathy for the guy. He needs to like, you need to be
Have you
socialized.
never been like a really shitty teenager?
Not
at
when
some
I was
point in your-
18.
Have you been a shitty teenager? I think people
I
mature
think
at different
there's,
ages. I
like,
don't think
there's
like.
a point though where like I always knew how to socialize properly.
Well, people do that and realize that at different ages.
Well,
Because of like different
18,
experiences.
I'm
You also have to
sorry.
understand, like, you know, for someone who's been through something as traumatic as like their dad killing themselves in the garage, I feel like that holds you back in certain respects. I think there. I wasn't like that at 18. Like I wasn't like
I would
socially.
hope not.
Yeah, but I think people mature at different ages, and I think, you know, it is
Yeah.
what it is.
And I mean, it doesn't
There
make him
comes-
any less like insufferable
Also,
watching.
I'm sorry,
There
but,
comes
like-
a point where I have
Also,
no
learning
like,
to
empathy.
mature, like entering college, isn't that abnormal? I don't think. I feel like it's a normal
No,
thing for
but
a
there's
lot of
like a
people.
level of what Lawrence is like. I'm sorry, at this point you should be more socially mature.
No, you're right in the sense that if I met like an 18-year-old who was like Lawrence, I'd punch them in the face or something. That's kind of
Yeah.
fucked up. But I think there is some relatability. In,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
I feel
some
like to kind
coming
of
age.
understand what the movie is like, I guess trying to say, Lawrence does need to kind of be the kind of heights of those, you know, feelings.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
yeah,
the
exactly.
extent of
Yeah.
like the biggest film bro that you will ever
Sure.
meet, or like, you know, the biggest asshole to like his
Yeah,
one
it's
friend.
a movie, it
Yeah,
needs to
take
be
to the
exaggerated.
Yeah,
like otherwise
exactly.
it doesn't work. It can't
But,
be
like-
like real life lukewarm type of thing. Otherwise
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah.
people. I saw people comparing this movie to like, you know, like Lady Bird or something like that. Which
Really?
Is
It's kind of like Lady
You know,
Bird.
the movie I thought about was Marty Supreme to an extent.
That's also a
Genuinely.
coming of age movie. Sure. Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't think Marty Supreme is an extreme example of this type of behavior? That's much worse than whatever this
Yeah.
is.
I think they're both really bad, and I
Dude.
did not like the characters.
Marty's very bad.
They're both bad.
Yeah, I think they're bad.
They're
in different
both
ways.
insufferable, and they go down their spiral, and then that was the
Would
movie
you
I
rather
compared
someone
it-
come up to you and say, "I hate your movies," or would you rather someone come up to you and say, "I think your life is purposeless, and I think I have a purpose," and you don't?
no matter
Would you
what, I'd
rather
punch
have?
them in the face. Like you get the same result.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, what do you think overall?
Here, my overall rating. Okay, it was a fine movie. It was fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was fine. I understand why you guys probably like it more than I, just because of references, maybe sense of humor, some of the more
Sure.
stylistic, whatever, anything. One thing I want to say before, Katie Douglas, who I imagine none of you know who that is, she was in this movie for 5 whole seconds.
Who's
She is in a show that I like called Ginny and Georgia.
who is she in this movie?
She is there, you know, like the montage at the end where the friend and the girl make
Uh-huh.
that. She is like one of the girls in the prom
Okay.
dresses. She's in the blue prom blue dress.
Really?
She, oh my god, when I saw her, I was so
That's
happy.
That's a
crazy.
That you
crazy
caught
pick.
that,
That's
yeah.
that's
Awesome.
crazy. Okay.
Like a
Anyways,
glorified extra.
yeah,
Whoa.
but it's Katie Douglas, people.
Avery's well
Anyways.
versed in the extras game.
Oh yeah,
She knows.
I know.
She knows every extra by name.
Exactly, but it was fine. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. It's not
It
bad.
was
That's
fine.
fair, yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Alex.
I like this movie a lot, but I give it like an 8 out of 10. Like I was thinking as I was rewatching, I'd push it up to a 9, and it's about that, but I'd say it's about an 8 for me. For what this kind
How
of
do you
movie
think
is.
this compares to Mylan Kicks?
I think I like this a little more than Mylan Kicks. I do want to rewatch that one because it's been about a year, but I like that one a lot. Like
Okay.
they're about the same rating for me.
Sam?
I would give this an 8 as well. I really liked it, you know. Yeah, there's some nice funny moments too. There is the kind of thing of like when you do know the movies that you start going, you're like, oh no way!
It is a really.
But then you're like, oh wait, I'm like him.
Yeah,
Oh no. But no, I really enjoyed it. It's a really good movie.
I'm not gonna go into this too much, but we didn't bring this up really. But I find the mother and son relationship in this movie done really well, and I think
That's true.
I mean, there's so much I can say about that, but it's done really well, and I think it's impressive for a movie to make me feel empathetic for a guy as shitty as Lawrence. And so just for that alone, I was in between like a 7 and 8, but I think I'd give this an 8 as well. Because I mean it's great because I was like, this guy fucking sucks. I don't think I'm gonna like
feel
this
no
movie too
sympathy.
much because I like feeling some way about the characters, but then
But you love Marty Supreme.
we talked about Marty Supreme. But no, like when we get that panic attack scene when he's locked in the employee's room and his mom trying to like comfort him and just scenes like that, I was like, okay, like I think I'm starting to get it. And
I think you can sympathize with him and also say he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And that he's like sexist also and treats
Yeah,
people like shit and
right.
treats his mom like shit and
Yeah, there is that. Like a movie that wouldn't have that is like, like Uncut Gems doesn't have much of that. Like that's a character you can't really sympathize with. You still do at the end. It's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, I'll give this an 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to another
Jay
movie
Kelly!
about movies. Jay Kelly.
So Jay Kelly, I'll introduce this guy. So Jay Kelly was a movie that I only watched because Alex here is a
That's
die-hard Jay Kelly fan. And he pitched it to me of, you'll like it because it's a good father-daughter movie relationship, which I like those in movies. So I
forgot
watched
I even
it.
said that. Because I was going to ask you, because I recommend movies to you a lot, like not for the podcast, and you don't watch them. But you watch this one.
I did watch this one because you were like father-daughter. I was like, I'll watch
No,
this.
because you love George Clooney just so much.
So true. I love George
You
Clooney.
love George Clooney.
But yeah, we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
But do one of you want to summarize our
Alex, go ahead, go
expectations?
crazy.
Actually,
This is your
Alex,
movie.
this is your.
This is
Yeah.
honestly just two
This is
Alex
your
picks.
movie.
So, I watched Jay Kelly first out of all of us
Yeah.
because it's Noah Baumbach. And I like Noah Baumbach. He did Frances Ha, which I really love. That's Greta Gerwig is the main actress in that, and Adam Driver's in it.
Oh hell
Yeah.
yes! Okay.
I love, and then Marriage Story also is really great, and the Meyerowitz stories. Like I love Noah Baumbach. He co-wrote Barbie with Greta Gerwig. They're like
They're married.
yeah, they're married. And yeah, but I put off watching Jay Kelly for a little bit because I heard not so great things about it.
Right.
And then I watched it and I was like, what the fuck are people talking about? This movie's awesome.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was still kind of talk about could it get like a Best Picture nomination? Because it got like, it got Critics' Choice, I think, and a bunch of stuff. And then it just fell off completely and no one was talking about it after like the first month. Which
What
is crazy
the
because I love
hell?
this movie.
Nobody talks about this movie except for you.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about this movie.
This is the first time anyone has mentioned the words Jay Kelly in like 5 months.
No, that's actually
Yeah.
true. I don't think you could find a podcast on Jay Kelly on the internet.
Yeah.
So, like, this is an exclusive.
We're the first to have
This is-
it.
yeah.
We're gonna get all the Jay Kelly fans running to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, all the members of Jay Kelly
The
Nation.
3 people, yeah.
Yeah. But I totally agree to watch this movie, and I'm glad
Yeah.
you did.
Yep.
So
And I liked it.
that's good. You want to give us a rundown? What's this
I
about?
feel like okay. Well,
I think
You guys wanna do it?
I think you should do the rundown.
I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe you
Okay.
guys
he's gonna
should
be
do it.
like, this fucking
Yeah.
sucked. This
No,
movie
no,
sucked.
we'll
Okay.
do the plot rundown. So the movie is about Jay Kelly,
Whoa.
who is an actor in his, I don't even know what his age is, like his late 50s, 60s, early
However
something
60s.
like
old
that.
George Clooney is.
He
He's-
plays
yeah.
George Clooney.
This is basically a George Clooney biopic. It's just
Yeah.
under the
Yeah.
name of Jay Kelly.
You know
it's
what's
basically George
what's
Clooney.
really funny? I was making fun of Alex before we watched this, and I was like, "Are you a mom?" Because whenever I don't really care about George Clooney. I honestly, before watching this, like, I was like thinking, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck George Clooney is in and stuff.
Ocean's 11.
And
And
the Ocean's
I,
movies.
I
Yeah.
know, but I don't care about the Ocean's movies.
Oh man.
Well,
sorry.
you
I'm
should.
not saying
I was
George
like,
Clooney's a name, apart from his movies. You know,
Yeah,
like, it's just like
Because
George
I was like,
Clooney.
what I associate George Clooney with is moms that are like, oh my god, I love George Clooney. It feels like such like a like, you know, when if you ask most
She's calling you a
moms,
mom.
if you
Yeah.
ask most moms, who's your favorite actor? a lot of them would probably say
Cruise.
George Clooney.
Or George
Maybe
Clooney.
Tom Cruise too.
Yeah.
But it's like in that type of range of like, you know, these big names that like, you know, I don't know, moms are like, oh my god, George Clooney's so hot. And then I was watching the movie and I was like, wait, his voice. I really like his voice. I know that from something. What do I know it from? I actually, you know, he has a nice voice. It's fucking fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah,
I completely forgot that he's literally
That should have
Is
been
the fantastic
Yeah.
Mr. Fox.
and
That
so
should've been in the
I'm
montage,
sorry,
man.
Alex, because and you know what, I get those moms that are well not crazy over him finding him attractive and stuff, but I was like, you know, he has a nice voice, and I was thinking of
He has a
the
really
Fantastic
nice
Mr.
voice.
Fox.
This movie, it's hard to describe it like plot wise. It's about Jay Kelly going through a midlife crisis. That's the best
Yeah.
I can put it. It's
To a
about
degree.
this like really famous actor who realizes, you know, a lot of time has gone by and he hasn't spent enough time with his daughter. He hasn't really been present in the moment. He's just been busy making movies. There's a great line in the movie where he says, "All of my memories are movies." You know, so it's just that kind of sentiment throughout the movie. And Adam Sandler, who's really good in this movie. I love Adam Sandler.
He's so
much.
good in this.
He plays Jay Kelly's manager, and the entire movie is just kind of building up to this big tribute that's happening for Jay Kelly at Tuscany, where it's just like a montage of all of his films, and he's going to be presented like an award, a lifetime achievement type of thing, and that's what the movie's building up to. And building up to that moment, Jay Kelly is like, "Oh God, he's looking at his past. He's like, oh, I screwed over this guy. I didn't do this. I didn't do that, and like I didn't spend time with my kids." And just all these different memories kind of meld together, and it's just a character study of Jay Kelly. That's the best I can describe it. We'll get into the details as we talk, but that's basically the overall plot of the film. The first thing I want to bring up is this movie is shot so fucking well, like surprising. I don't know what Noah Baumbach like was on, but it's insane how well this movie shot. It opens with this insane oneer, which is like I don't know, like what 5 minutes long, something like that.
Yeah.
So many moving parts. The lighting is insane. The editing's great. It's so well done, and it's just well, it opens on a movie set, and you know, it's Jay Kelly's final scene. Final shot in this movie he's doing. And we just see him, get
and we see
this.
the director of the film that he's making is played by Kyle Soller, I think his name is, who plays Cyril in Andor, which I was pointing at this because I think this came out around the time that Andor had just ended. Maybe I'm not sure exactly, but I was like so hyped, and that was right at the beginning of the movie, so that's when I knew. Like,
that's why Alex
movie.
likes this movie.
Yeah, that's why.
Because it has Cyril, and and they spent the whole next hour after like waiting for him to come up again, but he doesn't. He's only in like 5 seconds. Crazy.
Yeah, and
so fucked up.
What's the line? I don't know if you'll have to help me if you remember, but like George Clooney, Jay Kelly, sorry, he's doing the scene. He finishes the scene, and then he's like, "Oh, can I do it again, or can I do another?"
Yeah.
Or something. It's a big line because this comes back later.
It was I'd like to do another, like something like that.
It was something along those lines, and he says that, and then they do it again, and then we get into the rest of the movie.
Yeah. It's kind of just going through a lot of these kind of mistakes that he's made throughout his life.
Yeah.
Or, people that he's kind of taken for granted or hurt. And it first really begins with he runs into his old college friend Tim and, decides to go out for a drink with him. And they seem to be having like a nice night until Tim is like, I actually like really, can't stand you.
Fucking hate
and
you, man. You ruined my life.
It's because back when, they were both starting out as actors, and like Tim has like kind of let go of acting. He's now like a child therapist, I think.
Yeah.
And, back when they were, really like young actors and stuff, Tim had invited Jay to come read his
scene with
and during an audition, and it didn't work out for Tim. They kind of just brushed him off after like a few seconds, but then Jay was like, hey, can I do the scene? And they end up loving him, and he gets the part. And so Tim is like, you stole my role, you stole my girlfriend, apparently that happened. And he's kind of always resented him for that, and they end up kind of getting into a fight, which kind of looms over the entire rest of the movie, because there's kind of this, he says he's gonna like sue him, and like you're not really sure if like he's actually gonna get consequences for like, I don't know, like punching this guy.
Yeah.
but that kind of loops in. And like one thing, okay, I don't know if this is just me reaching, but like honestly, for a second there, I thought that they were going to be like, you know, they had something when they were younger. I was saying, I'm like, there was this, it was kind of gay. It was kind of gay.
Really?
I found it. When the scene of them being like younger and like young actors, I was like, is this gonna be like a thing where like they had a fling, but then he like fucked up? I don't know. Maybe that's just
I saw someone online say like this is like the gayest straight movie ever, and I was like, where is the gay?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I just found.
I was
I
thinking
think
maybe
some
Adam
people
Sandler.
just got an eye for it. Some people
I
don't.
get
I've
it.
come to the
I
conclusion.
usually do. I'm usually good for that, but I didn't pick up on it.
Maybe
Are you
that's
just
just
saying that
me.
because it's Louis Partridge? Like, is that what
We
you're
love
saying?
Louis Partridge.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't know.
But
It
Louis
just
Partridge
seems
isn't gay.
He has that look.
okay.
He dated Olivia
No,
Can't be saying that,
Rodrigo.
man.
It's a
God.
perfectly fine thing to
No,
say.
I honestly couldn't pinpoint a certain reason why, but it just
He has,
seems
like
like
the
they had.
attractive, you know, like younger kind of, you know.
He dated Olivia Rodrigo for like 3 years.
You can be like
I
maybe he's
don't think-
bisexual or something. Who knows?
Okay, man.
You know?
No, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. I kind of got like, this is a little gay. But like,
could see that.
I don't know. It just felt like maybe it's also because you really don't see. I mean, I guess this was also before there was the kind of flashback where Jay is doing a scene with like this other actress who like,
Right.
you know, they had a thing. But like at that point, you know, there's no other kind of like partner of his. Like he's divorced.
I can't picture
And, like,
George
you know-
Clooney being gay. That was my sort of, that's where I put it.
Okay, but when they're younger though. The
Then
two
it's
Louis
actors when they're
Partridge.
younger.
Yeah, then maybe then. Yeah.
Because his one true love, his one true love is the movie. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, he's leaving one lover for another. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
can see
That's
it.
just something that I saw. You know, I was like, I was actually genuinely like, wait, is this actually going to be what I think it is? Or are they going to be like, you know, they were lovers and then he like stole the role?
Baumbach's too straight for that.
Yeah,
But that is
no,
a good idea.
that's
feel like.
very
I feel like that
interesting.
would make it so much more. Anyways, that's
That
just.
is
That's a
very
good reading,
interesting.
I like
But yeah,
that.
that whole the movie, it's just all about like resentment and guilt and just anger and like regrets, you know, missed opportunities, stuff like that. That's whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can't get into every single dream that, you know, George Clooney has or every daydream, you know, he walks into, but he has a bunch of those and they're all just like a series of regrets he's had over the years.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that he literally walks into these flashbacks
Right.
and he's experiencing.
Yeah.
On the train,
this
like
is
that's
true.
a big thing. Like
Yeah.
they're on this train in Europe, and he goes into like a different like compartment, and he's just in a memory.
Yeah.
You know, he's watching his younger self and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
do like
And-
the way it's done.
I find that a lot of the times, I mean, it feels like a very, like, I feel like a lot of parts of this film do, if you were to kind of place them into very, like, broad categories, it does feel like a lot of other movies, like, you know, like, oh, you know, it's a guy who, like, you know, oh no, he was so committed to his career, he forgot about the people around him. Or, like, you know, the idea of, like, walking into, like, memories or, like, you know, flashbacks happening, you know, you remember all your regrets. But I feel like the way this film does it, it feels very fresh and very, like, you know, very... I think it also has to do with it's just beautifully shot. So, like, those transitions
Yeah.
into the kind of, like, memory sequences are really good. But... yeah, it kind of feels like as much as like if you were to take, I don't know, the general themes of this, like it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, it's like, oh no, you were so focused on like, you know, your
Yeah.
career that you forgot about your kids or like your friends and like, you know, now you're kind of stuck here and like you've kind of lost everybody.
You know what I was thinking watching this? Now, I love Noah Baumbach. I love Frances Ha. I think it's a really well-written movie. So I'm watching this movie, and about halfway through, I realized that it's an extremely melodramatic and overly sentimental film. And that's okay, because I trust Noah Baumbach as a writer, and so I thought that the movie is being purposefully, you know, overly sentimental, you know, overly melodramatic, that type of thing. It's going for that type of feeling, and I was like, that's fine. I can respect that. I like a bunch of movies that do that, but I feel like this movie doesn't maintain that feeling, at least for me. I feel like there's parts of the movie where it's trying to be like it's like genuine. Like it's not trying to be overly sentimental. It's just genuinely that. Like that's what the movie is. And I feel like it's these, I guess these moments come through in like dialogue. Maybe there's some lines which are just really, super like on the nose in a way that's not really done well. And like, Sam, you were talking about this, and you brought up like Laura Dern's character, who's in this movie as well.
One thing that I actually couldn't stand about this movie. And like I'll say this a bit, I did really like this movie. But whenever Adam Sandler and Laura Dern are having their conversations about some sort of fling that they had, years ago or whatever, they were in a relationship and he was going to propose, and they literally spell every single thing out for you. They're like, do you remember that one night 4 years ago where you left me on the Eiffel Tower and we had this relationship and I was going to propose, but then you had to run away, and now there's this tension between us, and I'm going to say this all in dialogue because I want to make sure that you understand that we had a relationship and it didn't work out.
Honestly, that didn't bother me.
No, I don't think it works, because I think it's implied that the reason she went away is because she had to work for Jay or whatever. But then she's like, "Oh my God, you remember that time on the Eiffel Tower when I ran away because Jay Kelly had this thing with the daughters of Bachelor?"
I don't think that's what it.
It's because it doesn't feel natural.
It doesn't feel natural.
It's like Laura Dern will be like, or like Adam Sandler will be like, you remember that night. And, Laura Dern will be like, yeah. And, you could leave it at that. But then she says, that night when you left me on the Eiffel Tower. And it's like, why are you explaining? That wouldn't happen naturally in a conversation. If you understand which night they're talking about, they wouldn't re-explain all the details of it.
I think it works. And this is the reason why it worked. And it thematically goes in with what the rest of the movie is doing. Is that it's a movie about them having to bring these kind of repressed feelings about the mistakes they've made in their life to the surface. And it's about reckoning with the fact that these things that have happened throughout your life, the bad choices you've made, that this is part of your present and this is something you have to reckon with. That the life that you've made for yourself, that all of these things you've done in the past, every issue you have now is because of the culmination of everything that you've done throughout your life.
That's like a prescient thing in the movie. Why does that dialogue
and because one of the other things I was going to say, have you seen The Five Bloods, the Spike Lee movie?
No, not fully, no.
That movie also does a really interesting thing with flashbacks where it's like a Vietnam War thing about these veterans, and when it flashes back to them in the war, there's no de-aging or anything, it's just the actors as they look in the present.
Okay.
And so the idea is that when they're having these memories of them when they were younger, they see it as their current selves because the past lives with them in the present. And that's kind of what this movie is doing, where he walks into these flashbacks. And the movie is about bringing these memories of the past into the present and of letting that sorrow just exist and saying, it sucks that we had this thing and it didn't work out, and they're finally talking about it. And the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, that really brings us all together, and this scene made me cry when I watched it. It's really sad, okay? So it's when Adam Sandler is talking to Greta Gerwig on the phone, his wife, and there's this really sad moment where he's breaking down, because I think this was just after he got fired.
Yeah, by Ben Alcock.
And he's breaking down in tears, and he's trying to get her to say I love you. He's saying just say I love you, and she's not saying it, not because she doesn't love him or anything, but because she's just preoccupied, she's thinking of something else, and it's like she's not hearing him. That he's trying to lay his feelings out and have a cheesy on-the-nose dialogue. Just say this really obvious thing that should be self-explanatory. Just say I love you. And she's not saying it. And just because of a miscommunication. And you see that heartbreak of, we cannot just say the obvious thing. And so when you see him and Laura Dern have that conversation, they're saying the obvious thing. It's cheesy and it's on the nose, but they're saying it. And they're bringing those feelings to the present and just letting it exist, just lay it bare out there. And that's what Jay Kelly is doing throughout the movie. He has to come to terms with that and allow those feelings to be said.
You know what? That's actually a good point, and I didn't think of it that way at all. But I don't think the rest of the movie really does that really. I think it's just that scene that
Dang.
stands out.
Yeah.
You know? And also, I will say, the thing you mentioned with the flashbacks in The Five Bloods, I haven't seen that movie, but I do find that idea interesting. And another movie that does this, and people hate this movie for the way it does it, but I would defend it like with my entire life. The Irishman by Scorsese also does this with the whole, flashback. It does it with de-aging, but it's really interesting.
The problem with that is that it just looks bad, but the idea is fine.
The movie, The Irishman, is Robert De Niro's character recounting these events. And so when you see him look that way, when you see him move like an actually old man, it's because he's retelling these stories, and it's because the present is carried with him to the past. That's why that movie works.
Yeah.
Jay Kelly isn't doing any of that.
Well, there's him walking into the flashbacks.
Yeah, but like,
it's the past and the present coexisting. That he can just like be in the past.
but
That he's
how
literally
does that,
just walking
how does
into
that
it.
like relate to like that piece of dialogue, or like this cheesy, not even cheesy, just poorly written dialogue by Laura Dern, which is so, and that's insane, because I feel like what you're saying probably does have merit to it, because I think Noah Baumbach's a great writer, and so it's surprising to me that there would be this glaring inconsistency in his writing.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it's that different from how he normally writes. Like this is like Noah Baumbach is like a mumblecore guy.
Yeah, he
when
is.
when you go
Right.
back, you watch other mumblecore movies like Mary Bronstein also, like with Yeast, which I love that one a lot. And like what's an I don't know. Like when I think of mumblecore, I think of like Kicking and Screaming and Francis Ha and those kind of Noah Baumbach films. And those movies, like, that's kind of how they're characterized. It's like unlikable guys just telling you how they feel. Like, if you see a lot of these movies, it's on the nose dialogue of people just explaining their feelings and saying obvious things.
I feel like the difference is that in that scene, the Laura Dern and Adam Sandler scene, she's telling you something plot-wise that happened, like the actual happenings of the event. She's not saying, I felt this way. In Francis Ha, everything is on the nose. Greta Gerwig is telling you exactly how she feels in the cheesiest way possible, but it works, because it's about the emotion and the feeling of it. She's not saying, remember the time where I was lost in that bakery in Paris? She's not talking about that. She's just talking about how she felt.
I think there's so much emotion in this. I think when you connect it to the themes of the movie, like, I feel like I got a lot out of it.
Like, I get it, but to me it just felt so out of place. Like, when I was watching that movie, I'm like that scene, I'm like, are they just trying to like it felt just like, plot dump. Like, to me, it felt like it didn't feel like they're like, oh, we do kind of need to explain, the relationship that they had, so we're just gonna put it in somehow. And it doesn't feel natural. And I feel like I get what you mean of like putting like, everything out there, or like, I mean, even like, or like I think of the scene where Jay Kelly is like with his daughter, and like they go to like her therapist, and he's like reading a letter that she wrote when she was like 10.
Yeah,
and literally the first line is like, I remember when you abandoned us. And he's like, whoa, I didn't abandon you, It's like, yeah, it's putting it all out there. But that feels so much more natural and makes more sense. Whereas in this scene, they literally just walk up to one another and they're like, remember that time that, all of this happened, so that the viewer knows what happened between us?
I get what you're saying. I don't fully disagree. Like, I can understand saying the dialogue's maybe not the best, but I think it's purposeful. I will say, like, you can say you don't think an execution that it works, but I think there's a reason why he's doing it.
I don't doubt that. Again, I don't doubt that at all. I think it could have been done.
I just think it's done very like clunkily, specifically with Laura Dern and Adam Sandler's character. But like overall, like I completely get what you mean of like, letting it all exist and be out there.
I think in terms of Adam Sandler and Laura Dern, I can see it in that case, but I think the rest of the movie really, like, the rest of it works. I think the idea of having to say these things that you just can't say, and like writing the letter and he doesn't want to hear it. It's the tension of like, you have to say these things, you have to just lay your feelings bare and have those conversations, but it hurts to do it. And so he doesn't want to say these, he doesn't want to put this into words, but you have to. And it's the tension of like, do you do it or not? And that's what the whole movie's about, in my opinion. And I think for the most part it works.
One of the big scenes in the movie that kind of comes back towards the end is the scene when he's on the train and he's, talking to all of these, different strangers in Italy and stuff like that. And then there's this really strange moment where somebody steals a purse and they run out and everybody runs out on the field. Jay Kelly's running out on the field and he's the hero. When I was watching that scene, it feels like a scene from a movie. Like they're shooting a
Yeah.
scene from a movie, right? And then at the end of the movie, near the end of the movie, the whole like payoff for that scene is that Jay Kelly is now seen as a hero. You know, instead of being seen as the guy who low-key assaulted a child therapist earlier in the film, he's seen as this hero. And I get, you know, it's a whole discussion there, you know, with the themes and stuff like that. The celebrity, you getting away with it, you know, whatever. And I find, you know, I don't know if this is true or not. I have no idea. But was that scene in the train, the guy robbing the purse, was it like planned? Was it like put together by his management or something? Because it feels
I don't think so.
it feels so like strange, and it's shot like it's a movie, like purposefully a movie scene.
No, exactly.
Which I find so interesting. And I guess there is that layer of that he's performing, or like it feels like a performance.
Or people view him as a character, not as Jay Kelly.
I guess
you know
like
what
they're
I
viewing
mean?
him as a hero instead of like who he really is. But
Yeah.
it feels like
Yeah.
a performance. And then I don't know. I found that really interesting. That whole scene.
I think one of the interesting things about that is that later on in the movie, I think this is like there's like a dinner party, and they talk about this video that's going viral.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we just this thing that we're seeing, like this thing on our phones, and you think that it's gonna be the video of him assaulting the guy in the bar, and then you find out actually it's like this heroic moment of him stopping the guy on the train, and so I think that's the subversion where, like, yeah, he gets away with the bad thing he did, and the perception that it exists instead in the public eye is this very manufactured looking thing of him being a hero and looking good because he's rich and famous and gets away with it. And that's kind of the thing of when you're like a rich, famous movie actor like Jay Kelly, there's a lot of things that come with that allow you to live an easier life. Of like, yeah, you have this team of people supporting you, all your like PR guys who are just trying to make you look as good as possible, and you're rich and you've got a good life and you've made it. But then, you know, that leads into, you know, what the movie's really about, which is his regret over his relationship with his children.
And you're right. And I think that's really, I think the way it's shown in the movie, at least what I took out of it, like I think there's a real meta element throughout the entire movie, and it really comes back in the final scene, which we'll get to, which is pretty good. I think there's a real meta element to this film in terms of like the script and also the way it's shot. Because I think that scene, I swear to God, it's shot as if like George Clooney's like on the set, like as if like Jay Kelly's like on the set of a movie, you know? So I do find that really interesting.
It's very different from how the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Shot, yeah.
And there's this. This is something that I'm personally really into, and like, you know, I've been reading like about this whole thing of this idea. I'm fascinated by this idea of just not being able to, like, you know, fit into like a different type of people. You know what I mean? It's like Jay Kelly, this really rich actor guy. He goes onto this train. You know, he wants to be like a normal person, but he's just not able to fit in because he's just not that person, and he can't let go of his, you know, his safety net. Of being this rich person, right? Like he wants to be this normal guy, but then he has this bodyguard right next to him at all times. Like in every shot, Jay Kelly's bodyguard is always in the back, and you know he has his nice suits and stuff like that. And so he just can't like really get into the normal life. And that's just something that I personally like when movies do that. Just recently,
like he goes into that part of the train to like see normal people, to be normal himself, but he's still Jay Kelly.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And he'll always be Jay Kelly. Even if he were wearing like completely normal clothes, people would be like, oh my God, I know you from that movie or something like that. And so I think that idea is pretty interesting. All of this builds up to the big
ceremony.
The big tribute ceremony at the very end of the movie.
There's a lot before then.
There is a lot
about
before
the
that.
phone call scene that made me cry.
Yeah.
With
That's
his daughter,
really good.
like in
Yeah.
the forest.
When he calls his daughter like in the forest, and then like he walks past the tree, and then she's there. She's like in the scene.
It's shot really well.
Yeah. I think the like parent stuff in this and like family stuff is really interesting.
I like the stuff with his dad.
Yeah, like I do really like the kind of, I don't know, somebody says something pretty on the nose, but it's like, you know, you tried so hard to not be your dad that you ended up turning out like him.
Yeah.
No, it's like you tried so hard not to be like your dad that you kind of gave up on being a father at all.
Yeah, that's that's exactly what it is. And it's also like he is kind of like his dad in like the sense of like, you know, throughout, like Jay Kelly is an extremely selfish person. Like he is, like, you know, there are multiple scenes where what's Adam Sandler? Don, is that it? Ron, that's his name. Where like, you know, Ron is like, you know, expressing something that he's dealing with of like, oh, you know, it's my daughter's like we're doing like the tennis tournament tomorrow, or like, oh no, my daughter's like ankle is like swollen.
Yeah.
And Jay Kelly is just completely ignoring him, like fully tuning him out. He'll be like, oh, how are you doing? And he's like, maybe I should like, go and see my daughter or something like that. Or he's like, oh, maybe I should have done this differently. I've been thinking a lot about the past. And it's like, it seems as if he's like trying to like reckon with like these mistakes he's made. But at the same time, he's like fully ignoring this person in front of him who's like a real person dealing with things, and it's all kind of his mind. As much as he's like, oh, I've made these mistakes, it's very much an internal like thing, rather than the people that like I've hurt and stuff like that. It's more like I have hurt people, and so it's interesting how that night of when like the night before the ceremony, when like they're partying and stuff, and like his dad drinks too much, and he's like, his dad is like, I just want to go home. And he's like, no, Dad, like, please, I really want you to stay here. Like, I really want you to come to my ceremony, And his dad is just like, no, I want to go home. And he just leaves. Yeah. And it's kind of the same way that, like, like Jay, he's kind of just been like, always thinking about what he wants and stuff. And then the second that, he wants something from someone else and they decide to choose, it's like, like he does kind of turn out like his dad. And it's just like, I mean,
you can't, not that I'm justifying his behavior, but he is an actor. I'm sure like he could, like, everyone's kind of there to suck up to him, if you know what I mean.
I guess, but it's like,
I don't blame him for having that ideology. Not that I'm justifying it, but I'm just saying.
Like, but it feeds into it.
It's to the extent where like he genuinely cannot even for a moment listen, like even with his daughter, he asks, and like he fakes it. He's like, how was your trip to Paris? And then he just doesn't even listen when she responds. And she's like, you're not even like, you're just asking so that you feel better about yourself, that you're like asking me these things, but you're not even taking the time to listen to what I'm saying and react and stuff like that. Like it's all fully kind of for his sake. It's always for his sake rather than anybody else's sake. And that is very apparent through just his relationships to like everybody around him,
You brought up the phone call scene at the forest. It didn't really move me personally, and I feel that scene is kind of representative of just an overall disconnect that I feel with this movie. I don't know what it is. It just feels really, all of it feels so manufactured. Is that the right way to put it? It just feels, I don't know.
In what sense?
I don't know, man. Like the whole walking into the memories on the train, the whole big forest, lost in the forest with all this fog scene. It feels too, not even glamorous, but like just the way it's shot, it just feels too fancy and too like this high production type of thing. And there's
steak too buttery.
No, I guess it is a steak too buttery type of thing. But there's just a disconnect, I feel. Even Jay Kelly wise, I feel like, and I found Adam Sandler to be a much more compelling character to watch, and someone I felt a lot more empathy for compared to Jay Kelly. Like they should have called the movie Ron or something. But I don't know. For me personally, maybe there's just this like, I'm sorry, Alex, he's really upset, man. But like there's just this disconnect, and
you've never like reflected on your life and been like, man, was this the right decision? Should I have gone down this path or this path? Oh, what if I didn't act this way about this friend? That's like, what that movie is.
I'm like 20. I feel like I gotta be at least 40.
21.
Sure, 21.
You say that, and then you're like, I'm 21. It's so over. I'm so old.
I feel
You've
like
never reflected on your life before and like been like, no,
this is crazy. I was asking you the same exact thing on I Love Movies.
Well, but like it's different. Like I've reflected on my life more like,
there's no way you relate to Jay Kelly in how much you've regretted in your life. There's just no way.
Like, regret,
you're too young to like regret that.
There is like a level of, should I have done this over this, or like was this the right move? Like there's a lot of uncertainty.
Should I have fostered this relationship more, or was it good to move past them? I
reflect more on that versus like, was I a shitty friend? Because I feel like, not to be like, I'm great, but I feel like I am a good friend, and usually if I do,
these are both very similar things. I think.
They
I think with Jay Kelly,
No,
like this,
yes.
this is like a 60-year-old man, looking back on his entire life and stuff like that.
But it's the same thing we said about I Like Movies, where you don't have to relate to this guy exactly to still
I
get
know.
something
I
out of that.
I get
Yeah.
that. I get the sentiment of it. Again, my issues with the movie and the emotional disconnect just comes from, I don't know, just the way it's presented, or like just something in the script. Again, I can't really put into words, but there is an emotional disconnect, and I
feel
don't.
like, sorry, go ahead.
What? No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
feel like we're literally saying like my criticism for that is your criticism of this.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the same criticism. You just like this movie more, and you like that one more.
Yeah, he just relates to that one more than I relate to Jay Kelly more.
yeah.
I'm not even saying that I need to relate to a movie to love it and emotionally connect with it. I guess that is to some level true for everything. But for this movie, I will say this, I didn't feel much emotion until the final scene. I will say that.
That's the third time I cried.
Good lord. Okay.
Maybe I was just going
Is this
through
like
something.
the most you've cried to a movie?
No, but I did cry 3 separate times watching this.
Damn.
But no, I think that final scene is perfect. I think that's such a perfect final scene for him to get to that, tribute ceremony type of thing, and to watch an actual montage of just George Clooney movies. And actually, I read this right after finishing the movie, but George Clooney didn't actually know that they're gonna play a montage of his movies, so he get
It was authentic.
Yeah, you get like an authentic
Wow.
reaction. And you see fucking, I don't know, what George Clooney, like Ocean's 11 or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, type of things.
Sure.
And then you get that final line where Jay Kelly, he's crying, he looks around the theater and he sees, Tim, the younger Tim, he sees the older Tim, he sees the therapist, he sees his daughter, he sees this and that. And then he looks into the camera, he holds Adam Sandler's hand, and they're both in tears, and he looks into the camera and he's like, "Can I go again? I'd like to do another one," or something.
Yeah.
And
That's so
yeah,
good.
that's a great ending. That's a really, really good ending. And when he looked into that camera, I was like, "Fuck, man! Fuck,
What
Jay
a picture.
Yeah, I am Jay Kelly too. I get you, Jay Kelly.
We're all Jay Kelly a little bit. Yeah, we all
We
got a
are
little Jay
all
Kelly in
Jay
us.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I guess it is the same thing that Avery was saying, but I like movies. There's just some disconnect there.
Yeah,
for me
I
personally.
guess you're
Again,
just a shittier friend and I reflect on my life more.
okay. Fuck you, this is great. You're a shitty friend, and I reflect on my life.
Yeah.
I'm a 40-year-old woman, and I've made a lot of regrets.
Yeah, and I don't care about my children. I am
yeah.
self-centered and only care about myself.
Lawrence is self-centered.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
Jay
saying
Kelly
he's
is 40
better.
years old.
But
and
like
still
Jay
saying-
Kelly
You're saying
isn't just
Lauren shouldn't be like that at 18. Jay Kelly's
Jay-
like that at 60 years old. Fuck you.
That's true. That's true. I mean, like
That is
Jay
good.
Kelly, like they're both bad, but I mean, Jay Kelly didn't just reflect on his life. He like abandoned his kids. He only cares about
Oh,
himself.
but
Yeah, but he doesn't
He-
act like an incel, though.
So, no, but like he's definitely an asshole. And the
He's
thing
more
is that
tolerable.
he's a
in my opinion.
Do you
celebrity, so
respect
people
with
forgive
midlife
him for it.
crisis? Or, okay,
Do I respect people with
do you
midlife
think? Do you think?
crisis?
Do you think? No.
Please expand.
Let me land.
I don't respect old people.
Do you find it more compelling to see a person go through like a teenage coming of age into adulthood, or do you find it more appealing to watch someone go through a midlife crisis at like 60, 50?
I think no matter what, coming of age, I don't think there's ever like, I think people just
When I say
continuously
coming of
are
age,
coming of
I mean
age.
more like 18, 17, 20.
I think
type of
it's
thing.
really dependent on if I relate
Because from what
to
you're
it.
saying, you like seeing old men go through it.
I think this is a better example of, like, I just find that I relate to that one more than I do Lawrence's. That's why I connect to it
Sure.
more and I
Yeah.
like it more.
Oh, that's fair. No, that's
So,
fine.
but
I
I
mean,
think,
I-
I'm not saying, you know.
I do feel like Jay Kelly isn't as like, I don't know, exaggerated as Lawrence is.
Yeah, no.
Because
He's a
like
real
it's
person.
almost like it feels like the thing with Lawrence is that a lot of the times in the movie he's just straight up like kind of annoying. Like it's
Yes.
like you're kind of like I don't
An incel
I just
who can't
yeah.
socialize.
But then
Yeah.
like Jay Kelly, I mean he's an actor. Like everybody loves him, you know. I feel like also like Lawrence in the movie, he's kind of like an outcast. He's a loser. Nobody actually really likes him. You
Yeah.
know, he lost his one singular friend. But like Jay Kelly, he's like a celebrity, you know, oh, he's charming. But then he's like also just like an asshole.
No,
and
but
it's like
Jay Kelly is like Lawrence in that way too, where he has no real friends around him, or no.
No,
Nobody
yeah,
really
but
likes
he
him.
has the kind of sparkle and shine and stuff.
Yeah,
and
but-
so you get the kind of like I don't know, you get a more
Glorified
yeah, like
version of it.
Yeah, like it's like it almost feels like
Fake.
because Lawrence, he is not like.
They're both alone. They're both like lonely.
They are.
People. And there's this bit in Jay Kelly where he's like, where his daughter's like, you're never alone. And Jay Kelly's like, what do you mean? I feel alone. And then his bodyguard comes in and hands him a drink.
That's a good
So like, and it's a funny bit, but like what it's saying is like, yeah, he's alone, but he has like, his bodyguard, his stylist type of thing. But those are not like
he
real
lacks
emotional
connection.
Yeah, he lacks connection.
No, that's very true. I just mean that like I understand why you might it's like Lawrence, like he's very much an exaggerated like portrait of like I don't know, like a loser, and then like Jay Kelly is like it almost feels like I'm not saying that he's not alone or like also like an asshole to like his kids and like the people around him, but it feels more like what the film is trying to do is be like, oh, this is this glamorous movie star, but in reality he's actually kind of an asshole, and like he doesn't have anybody around him. Whereas from the beginning of I Like Movies, you can kind of tell that Lawrence, he's alone. He doesn't have too many friends and stuff.
Doesn't do that.
I don't know. I mean, like I don't think that you're ever meant to like be like, whoa, he's so amazing. But that might just be because that's kind of how everybody around Jay Kelly, like
I personally got the idea from like the start of the movie where like, oh yeah, he doesn't have any real like people around him.
Yeah,
like, maybe it's because I've seen.
I guess.
Like I
mean, I don't know. Like I'm just.
But everyone talks about how they love his movies and stuff.
That's
but
like his daughter's boyfriend like loves his movies.
Like there's a difference between actually like being friends with someone and like blowing smoke up their ass.
Like he's an actor. Of course, you love his movies, but do you know who is Jay Kelly?
Yeah, it's like how you view celebrities. Like you can like a celebrity, but you don't actually know them as people, and you don't like
But I'm just saying that I feel like Lawrence is a more exaggerated portrait of like who the type of person he's representing than Jay Kelly is.
I mean, you could say just the exaggeration of Jay Kelly is that he is a big movie star, and the more relatable aspect of it is just people in our normal lives who are not movie stars, but still people who maybe have the same kind of regrets as Jay Kelly does, but in a more normal capacity, and that's the exaggeration.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But I will say one thing, this kind of relates. One thing that I like about Jay Kelly is that there is a lot of realism in it, especially with the daughter stuff, of they're not like actively hating on him or yelling at him, or it's not dramatized. It's just like, you were my dad, you weren't there, and that's okay. Then we will leave it at that.
Right, they don't have a big argument where they're blowing up at each other.
A great scene where Riley Q, she's like, you know why I think you weren't there for me as a child? And George Clooney's like, oh, why? And she says, because you weren't there. It's not like you treated me like shit, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you just weren't present.
Yeah.
And she doesn't hate him. Like, she's not saying, like, fuck you weren't there for me, I don't want you in my life. Yeah. She's saying, like, you can be in my life. And at the end of the conversation, she's like, oh, my kid's teacher, like, wants an autograph or something. So it's obvious that they're still in each other's lives. She's just saying, like, we're not close. And that's just the reality, is that, like, you're my dad, and I will always, like, love you as my dad, and we can have a relationship, but we're not close. And it's never going to be that way.
Sometimes a reality with families.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Really
like, it's so real.
Dynamic where, like, at a certain point, I guess if you have, like, estranged parents as a child, your only link to them is through the fact that they're your mother or they're, like, your father. And it's not that you actually, like, bond with them or, like, close with them. That is quite interesting. It's like a bond that you can't even let go of. Like, you can't just say that's not my mom, like it's really interesting. But yeah. Do we want to get into final ratings?
Yeah.
I give it an 8. I really like this movie. I thought it was a solid movie.
No,
I gave it a really high score. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Let's go!
Which is a little much.
I reeled Alex in this week, right?
Yeah. With the movie I recommend you.
Wait, that's weird. Is this the first time you...
Uptown Girls.
True.
What?
Okay, well, no.
The first time I rated Avery's movie.
No, I was just saying, is this the first time you've reeled anyone in?
Uptown Girls!
Yeah.
I mean, this is an instance of Avery's recommendation being my favorite of the two. And I was
true.
the one who recommended I Like Movies. It was my own recommendation.
Alex likes his own movies.
Whoa, no way! I don't know. and I look at the
this
letterbox
your
curve,
favorite
and there's like
Noah-
no 9 out of 10. Like I'm
Is
the
this
only
your
one.
favorite Noah Baumbach film?
No, I like Frances Ha more, and I might even like
Hmm.
Marriage Story more.
Okay.
But I like
Really?
Noah Baumbach a lot. Yeah.
Whoa,
Have you
Alex.
seen Marriage Story?
I've seen like 80% of it.
I haven't
Whoa.
seen it in a while, but I liked it.
Alex, do you like movies?
I would say I like movies.
Whoa,
Yeah.
no way!
Sam, what's your rating?
I also gave this. Well, I haven't actually rated it on Letterboxd yet, but I would give it an 8.
I thought she was
Yeah.
about to say 9. I was like,
No.
I
I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I did find I had said the stuff about the dialogue, but I feel like overall it's shot really beautifully. I do really like a lot of the characters and just a lot of the themes. I think for what it's trying to be, it's very well executed for the most part. And so, yeah, I really had a good time
This
watching
is
it.
awesome. This is how you feel when we like Uptown Girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
this is her Avery's pick. That's what we have. Yeah. I think it's shot really well. I think the performances are great. I give this a 7. out of 10.
Okay. I'll
That's
take a
fine.
7.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like,
I'll take it.
it's not gonna be like I can't give it like a 6 or anything or a 5. It's a 7. I think it's a solid.
I feel like you went into the movie wanting to hate it, and so I was expecting
Yes.
like a 5 or a 6. So I'll take a 7.
No, okay, I will say there was like this long bit of like, oh fuck, J. Kelly's not a real movie, type of thing. But no, I did go into it with an open mind. But I think if there ever was a 7 out of 10 movie, it's J. Kelly, and I say this with love. I do say it with love.
I think more objectively, it's closer to a 7 out of 10. But in my heart, it's a 9 out
I
of
think
10.
that's. I think I respect that. I respect
No,
that.
don't change your rating.
I'm not gonna.
Oh, okay.
It's a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I stand by
Hell
it.
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's not really a 9 out of 10 movie, but for me, like, I really connected with it. I was emotionally connected to the film. I cried. I love the characters. I think it's shot very beautifully. I just love the movie a
No,
lot.
It's a
you
good
know,
movie.
It's a great movie.
That's
I love it.
completely
So
fair.
true.
I think.
Second
Yeah.
time that, well, most of us have rated the Avery pick higher than the.
Well,
Yeah.
Avery pick.
No.
Okay,
This is an Abe.
but-
Let me have this.
Yeah.
Let me have this.
I did not
And-
influence Avery to recommend this movie for the podcast.
This is
she
true.
brought this
Yeah.
up
I
herself.
did bring this up.
Yeah. So.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do some connections. I
Both
mean, this is like I
about-
think.
We've been doing connections. the
Down-
whole
I feel
time.
yeah.
like, are these like the
Downward
closest
spiral.
movies we've ever had?
No. I mean, like,
They're
we had,
so
like.
close together.
We had,
They are
like.
very similar.
What?
Kissing Booth and what was that with Twilight? No.
No.
What was Kissing Booth?
Challenge-
Eyes Wide Shut.
Challengers.
Eyes Wide
Kissing
Shut.
Booth, Eyes Wide
Oh,
Shut.
then never mind. I'm
Challengers
thinking
was with Twilight.
Twilight and Challengers. Love triangle.
That's not Twilight isn't a love triangle, but whatever.
Watch the second.
I mean,
one.
like. I mean,
Do
there's
Robert
a.
Pattinson and Taylor Lautner do they like each other? Like, are they like? In
maybe Sam could eye something out. I don't know.
love? Okay, so they don't. Okay.
Listen.
Okay, man.
But yeah, this
She has an eye for it.
something.
I guess I
a
do.
connection, very obvious connection between two movies. It contains, Alana's character is trying to make it in LA. She's an actress, and her audition it completely derails, stuff like that. And Tim's audition in this movie derails. I love seeing that type of story in movies. La La Land does that.
Right.
A movie that does that like better than any other. I think Mulholland Drive does that really well. And I just love seeing that type of trying to make it in LA,
Yeah.
but like there's this darkness and evil to it, and you just can't do it, and you stay there for years and years, and
Yeah.
I like seeing that in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both movies also involve characters using their love of movies as like a mask in a way.
Yeah.
Like Lawrence uses his love of movies as to make that his personality, to disguise the fact that really he's a loser with no friends. Like he kind of
Yeah.
has to have a thing. He has to have an identity.
Mhm.
And with Jay Kelly, it's kind of a similar thing where
He's Jay Kelly.
yeah, he doesn't have fully formed relationships either, and he uses his love of acting and his love for the film industry and being a movie star as his personality in place of actually having a real personality
Yeah.
and friends.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's very true.
yeah.
Very good, Alex. Very good.
I mean,
I mean, that's basically that's the
there's
main.
a lot.
We've talked
It's-
about, yeah.
Movies about movies.
guys, homework. Make your own connections for Jay Kelly.
Why are we
Like,
making them do the work?
We did.
We discussed a lot of
Yeah.
things. So
I think we talked about how Adam Sandler's daughter
Yep.
is in this, and then I think it might be his other daughter who's in Roommates. Was it is the other?
No,
film?
it's the same one.
Is it?
Yeah, you're thinking of You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah.
This is the one that's in Roommates.
They both have Sadie Sandler.
Okay.
no huge.
I genuinely couldn't tell the difference between them.
Have you seen You're So Not Invited
No.
to My Bat? Oh.
Maybe if I saw a movie with her in it, but
Mm,
No.
I don't know.
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I think those are
Yeah.
good connections.
I think
Good job,
it
guys.
was a successful podcast.
Wow.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
listening.
much for
Yeah,
listening.
need to
guys, drop in the comments. Do you like movies?
No.
Do you like movies?
Yeah. I like
'Cause I like
movies,
movies.
guys.
Yeah.
I like movies.
Yeah,
You know,
do you like
this entire
movies.
podcast, especially the I like movies portion where I'm like, our favorite movies are our identity, and when people, dislike your favorite movie, it's like an attack on you. This is all to diss Alex again for giving A Silent Voice 7 out of 7.5 and a pity 8
I
out
did
of
bump it to
10.
an 8 at the end.
out of pity.
So
You're calling me
I
an
don't
8 out of
know.
10 person?
yeah.
Pity with pity points?
Alex,
A
do you know
7.5 in general?
Hey, that's a pass.
Fuck you, Alex.
Alex,
Jesus Christ.
do you remember your rating for Phantom Thread?
I love
9
her.
out of 10.
What the fuck, guys? They hate me, guys.
Do you remember how much you rated Phantom Thread?
What are we talking about there?
No,
Because he needs to say that, I'm a 10 out of 10
curious, 'cause,
person.
like,
I
she's
don't
talking about-
remember.
No, okay, it's okay.
It was
Whatever,
like an
man.
okay
Anyway.
movie.
Well, you know what score you gave my favorite movie, so
What?
Oh,
What
it is,
movie?
right.
Twin
Fire Walk with
Peaks?
Me.
Oh, right, Fire Walk with Me.
See, that's not fair. You
What?
guys are the same person.
Well, Phantom
You like
Thread
the
isn't
same
that Fire
movie.
Walk with Me is also my favorite
Well,
movie.
no, that's what I said. That's what I'm saying. You guys, your favorite movies are both Fire Walk with Me, so of course you're gonna be like 10 out of 10.
Alright.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alright, thank y'all so much for listening, guys. Tune in next week for our next episode on Twin
Yeah.
Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
No.
I'm killing myself.
Stay fresh.